Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to blogging on the LinkedIn publishing platform and a roundup of all the latest tech stories in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Big warm welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, if you're listening to this show on a mobile device, then I assume, like me, you also shop online with your phone too. But don't we all now? But one of the biggest frustrations, especially if you have a smaller screen on your phone, is having to zoom in and painfully fill in your details on those long-winded checkout processes. Sure, Amazon may have mastered that one-click ordering, but there are thousands of alternatives that we shop at out there that just don't. But what if there was a solution out there that made it possible for you to offer a pain-free, seamless experience just like Amazon? Well, I recently discovered a company called Fillr that allows you to do just that with their autofill features. But enough from me, buckle up and hold on tight because it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with the Senior Vice President of Growth at Fillr, Carl Madsen. So a big warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me on the podcast, Neil. My name is Carl Madsen, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Growth for a company called Fillr. And Fillr is a 3-year-old startup based in Melbourne, Australia, and San Francisco, California. And we have created the world's most accurate and portable autofill technology. Autofill is that feature you'll run into when shopping or filling out a web form online. It's when your browser tries to autofill the fields for you. Well, as most of you have probably experienced, it doesn't really work that well. So
yeah, you mean typically it will fill half of the fields in or duplicate a lot of the fields and you have to go in and edit them all. That's my experience with products not like your own. You know?
You're absolutely right, Neil. In fact, we had to build tools in the beginning to test the accuracy of the autofill that was out there. And Google Chrome and Apple Safari averaged 54% accuracy across the web's most trafficked forms. So that means like half the time you've got to go in and correct their mistakes. By comparison, Fillr is 96% accurate.
Now, I believe that Fillr is eliminating key friction in digital mobile commerce and, most importantly, that complex checkout process and stagnant conversion rates. But for anyone listening today, that is probably going to be their first introduction to Fillr. So can you expand a little bit and give a brief overview of what Fillr is, what problems it solves, and what makes it unique from everything else out there? I mean, we have hinted on the difference that it can make, but can you expand on that a little?
Sure thing. So Fillr is a form of autofill technology that uses cloud-based machine learning to be far more accurate than any autofill that exists. We've also extracted it from the browser and turned it into a service that you can put in just about any app, particularly like shopping apps. So right now, you can see Fillr in a couple different forms. As an individual user, you could get it as a Chrome or Microsoft Edge extension. But most often, you'll find Fillr white-labeled into other companies' apps. Fillr solves a lot of shopping problems, particularly on mobile. And let's face it, shopping on mobile can be kind of a pain. It's easy to find products, but it's pretty hard to actually complete that checkout because typing on that tiny keyboard is really annoying. In fact, it's so annoying that 37% of the cart abandonment that happens on mobile happens because of the difficulty of typing on mobile. And then another chunk of those abandonments happen because checkout forms are too complex. And then another chunk of those would-be shoppers bail out because they're pressed for time. So Fillr solves all of those problems because it's so accurate. You can literally complete a really complex checkout form with one click and feel confident that it's going to be all right the first time. We're unique in that we're not only the best and most accurate autofill in the world by a large margin. Again, we're 96% accurate to Google's 54%. But we've also turned it into this service that you can integrate into other apps. And what that does is it improves the conversion rate of any app that Fillr's in. In fact, on average, Fillr users convert at a rate of about 2.3 or 4 times greater than shoppers who are just shopping without Fillr. So that's pretty huge if you're a merchandiser.
Absolutely, and I think it's a problem that we can all relate to as well. I mean, I know phone screens are getting much bigger now, but we've all been through, zooming in on a merchant's website, trying to zoom in on those particular fields there and getting all your information in. And you do give up. I mean, I'm guilty as much as anybody. I mean, I'm sure you have too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've all done it, and a lot of people do it. In fact, there was a study that looked at the amount of money that all of this cart abandonment adds up to, the sum of the goods that would have been purchased. And in 2016, that was $4.6 trillion, which is just a huge number. We call that the abandonment economy because it's such a large number you can speak of it as an economy.
I've got to ask as well, what's the history behind Fillr? I mean, I'm kind of curious on where the inspiration came from. I mean, I hope it's someone like you or myself there that, were just fed up of this and decided to do something about it. Is that what happened with Fillr?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Our co-founders are serial entrepreneurs. When they finished, they exited from their last company, they were looking around for a problem to solve. And one of them was actually trying to buy something on his mobile device, and he got so frustrated, he's just said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so they started looking at autofill because, traditionally that's just been a feature that browsers have had, but they haven't really paid much attention to it, and they've tried to solve it making a lot of sort of false assumptions. One of the biggest false assumptions that browsers use with autofill is they assume that web form is going to be coded up to web standards. And so it's kind of a pretty dumb feature. And what we learned was that accurate autofill, rather, it's a hard problem to solve, and it takes a lot of processing power. And so instead of doing that on the device through a browser, our founders had this inspiration to create an engine that sits in the cloud that can use as much computing power as possible to solve this pretty complex problem. And so they went to town and they built it, and we launched and started making partnerships, and things have been doing really well.
Now, according to the Business Intelligence report on shopping cart abandonment, I think it's an incredible 78% of consumers who start online abandon it, leaving 4.6 trillion worth of merchandise left unpurchased in online shopping carts abandoned across the globe. And I know I'm one of them, like I said a few moments ago, but how do you leverage this information and act on it in real time?
Well, when we came across that $4.6 trillion figure, our heads were kind of blown. Like, that's such a huge number, and it represents such an opportunity for a business that can solve it. So, we carry that number with us with everything that we do every day on the job at Fillr. But in the actual user experience, one of the things that we do is we offer the user two ways of autofilling these really complex forms. One is at the very beginning, they can just say, do it all at once, one click. The other is Fillr goes with you as you fill out the form, and it offers you the option of individually completing each field. So if you ever got to the point where you were just fed up and about to leave, there'd be a little prompt by Fillr that says, we'll do this field for you. So that's one of the ways that we sort of leverage that.
Now, do you think that the traditional retailer has been guilty of not taking autofill problems seriously, or is something that can contribute to cart abandonment? And how did you actually deliver that wake-up call to them?
It's interesting. I wouldn't say they're so much guilty as they're just not aware of how better autofill can help them.
Yeah.
And more to the point, before Fillr came around, there really was no solution for them for this problem that they could act on. They had to hope that web browsers would make autofill features better, and that's a long wait and isn't likely to ever happen because it's just never been a focus for web browsers. So now they can know now that today they can solve this problem themselves with their app and take the web browser out of the picture. So delivering this message to mobile retailers and merchandisers is something that my team and I spend a lot of time doing. And most of the time, if we can start the conversation, retailers immediately understand the potential benefit. I mean, they get it. The hard part for us is get to have that first conversation so they can learn about Fillr. After all, I mean, this is a new solution, and the web is full of companies promising the moon and not delivering. But in our case, we've got a really simple, light, secure, and privacy-strong SDK that's really easy to put into an app, and it really delivers. So thankfully, the Ebates of the world and folks like that are awakening to the value that we can bring to their business.
So is Fillr aimed at retailers more than consumers? And if so, how does it work? And what kind of visibility of the service will the average user have of Fillr? Because I would imagine if it's aimed at retailers, many of the people listening have probably already used Fillr and have got no idea because they've not seen that label.
That's a really good point. So you can use Fillr as a consumer by using our Chrome and our Edge extensions. But most of the time, people are going to encounter us as a white-labeled feature in a shopping app that they might be using. Let's say, for example, like an Ebates.
Yeah.
So they'll be in that Ebates app, and the Ebates app sends their users to many different checkout forms to complete transactions because Ebates aggregates a bunch of different merchants. So they're a prime candidate for filler, and all they would need to do to get it is take our very small SDK, our software developers kit, and integrate it into their Android and iOS apps. And then that integration would enable Ebates to have its own resident autofill that looks just like the rest of the Ebates app, but it gives them that 96% accuracy in filling out these complex forms. And so once the SDK is in there, the user uses the app, and say they check out, they'll see a little tiny prompt that says use secure autofill, and if they click on it, boom, you're all complete. So you can kind of see how that would totally make shopping a lot easier.
Absolutely. And just to give the listeners an idea of how big you guys are, I think you've reached over 100 million monthly active users already. I mean, that's got to feel great and give you guys an indication that you're onto something special here, hasn't it?
Yeah, our growth has just skyrocketed in the last year, and it feels just wonderful to see those numbers. It's a really visible, positive validation of the quality of our technology. But more importantly, it's a great validator in how our tech makes people's lives easier. And despite comparing our accuracy to Google and Apple, we really do kind of feel like we exist in a bit of a greenfield that we have all to ourselves, because no one is approaching this problem of autofill like we have. And in a way, our approach is pretty future-proof.
Now, I recently also read use cases of filler currently include IoT messaging and voice too. I mean, it's also partnered with more than 20 browsers and OEMs worldwide. I mean, can you expand on that a little? Because it seems that you guys are doing fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, well, definitely. When we originally launched, we focused our distribution strategy on mobile browsers and handset manufacturers, OEMs. Yeah. Because filler leverages different parts of a core web browser. And so we created an easy way for mobile browsers to integrate filler into their browsers. So that led to a lot of partnerships pretty quickly. Demand was really good, and we ended up with 20 or so new partners. And then as far as the IoT and the messaging and voice, we're really always looking at the future, and we want to be prepared for the next waves of e-commerce and internet-enabled devices. That's where shopping's going. It's going to become even more seamless than it is now. So we've developed ways to integrate filler with voice-driven experiences like Siri and Amazon Echo. Because if you think about it, you can talk to Siri or Echo and say, "Hey, I want to find me a pair of Adidas campus sneakers that are blue and size 10." But then how do you buy it? You're going to need some kind of autofill for that to work. And then on the IoT front, we just see a lot of upside for filler because most IoT devices don't have keyboards. And so they're going to need a way to enter data to complete transactions. And that's where our voice-activated autofill can come in handy.
You mentioned it's seamless there, and I would expect that it is seamless for customers and clients of yours. So can you tell me a little about the complex technology behind making filler that one-click easy, faster and secure for your partners and customers in the future it's heading into?
Yeah, sure thing. The technology behind filler is actually very complex. In order to get to 96% accuracy, we have to approach the problem in a very different way than it's been approached to this point. Traditionally, autofill has been, like I said, a browser feature, and that feature has only been able to use the computing power on whatever device that browser's on, whether it's a computer or a smartphone. So we realized that's really limiting. So we took our whole concept to the cloud and built a machine learning engine that basically reads web forms as if they were like a human being in a way. The engine uses all kinds of algorithms to determine the context in which a field in a form sits, and then it uses more than 2,000 different mapping expressions to accurately map the fields in every form that it maps. And now this only takes a couple of milliseconds, and because we use this type of machine learning, it actually gets smarter the longer we actually are running as a business. So it's pretty complex. And, the proof is in the pudding in the sense that we've got that 96% accuracy, but most of the time that accuracy is even above 96%. So we're pretty conservative on that. So the other great thing about this machine that we've built is that it's future-proof and it scales, infinitely. So you can throw as much computing power as you want at the problem. And I should note, too, that we don't actually read and record and keep a library of the web's forms to do this. And that just wouldn't work. It wouldn't be scalable. In fact, our engine actually reads each form anew every time Fillr autofills that form. And that approach has gotten us this great accuracy and speed, and a lot of great partners, including one of the web's most popular browsers, Dolphin, have seen fit to integrate us right into their actual browser itself.
Now, you've already mentioned IoT and voice technology, so it already seems that you're ahead of your time and gone one step ahead in the future, already. But what's next for Fillr? I mean, how do you see the service evolving over the next few years?
Well, in the near to middle term, we're really focusing our business on working with more and more shopping aggregator partnerships and apps, companies like Ebates and Kayak, and so we're developing our tech to be even easier to integrate for partnerships like that. And then I can see us also growing through some partnerships with apps that are doing and leveraging social commerce, because they kind of have the same problem. Like if you use, to use Instagram as an example, it has this little thing called Shop Now, and it's a link that you can click if you're looking at something on Instagram, and that takes you to a product. And then if you want to buy that product, you've got to check out on a brand new, different checkout form for the company that's selling that product. So you can see how someone like Instagram could use us to benefit from our autofill. And then beyond that, I mean, we're probably most excited about getting Fillr into IoT devices. I think the future is kind of unknown there, but we know that big players like Samsung are betting a lot of money on IoT devices and new forms of shopping, and so hopefully we'll be right there with them as a partner.
Fantastic. Well, a big thank you for coming on today. But before I let you go, can you remind the listeners of your website for Fillr, and also how they can find out more information and preferred contact methods for anyone wanting to ask any further questions?
Yeah, sure thing, Neil. You can learn about all things Fillr by visiting fillr.com. That's www.fillr.com. And if you're a shopping app, your odds are pretty strong that we can help you out. And so to get in contact with us, just go to fillr.com. That's FILLR.com, no E. And on the footer of every page in our website, you'll find a contact link where you can reach out to me and my team. And there's also a lot of just great information on the website that sort of details some of the stats that you might see if you were to integrate Fillr into your app, and sort of the benefits there and how our technology works and things like that.
Well, for me personally, it's great to hear how Fillr's eliminating that key friction point in digital mobile commerce. Those complex checkout processes and stagnant conversion rates we spoke about earlier. And also those one-click, easy, fast and secure payments is now our expectation level thanks to Amazon. So if Fillr can help level that playing field and give small businesses a way of competing against the likes of Amazon, then I'm all for it. So a big thank you for coming on today, Carl.
Oh, thank you, Neil, for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
An accurate and easy-to-use autofill for mobile is something that would make my life a lot easier. But more importantly, something that retailers should be making the most of. The fact that it's more accurate than Google and Apple's autofill technology by a wide margin also suggests to me that it can only be a matter of time before those tech behemoths want them to work with them too. Because 78% of consumers who start an online purchase process currently abandon it, and that leaves a 4.6 trillion worth of merchandise left unpurchased in online shopping carts. And we've probably all done it, but that should be the ROI incentive for many businesses out there. Fillr really does seem to be rocking that part of the industry completely on their own and unchallenged at the moment. So it sounds like they're in for an incredibly bright future, especially considering that companies need the same features in IoT devices now. And this is the unexplored territory that businesses are going to want to capitalise on. So autofill technology for businesses and consumers around the world is a subject I never thought about until tonight. So a big thank you to Carl for educating me on what Fillr is doing now and how I've probably already used it without even realising it.
If you enjoyed today's show, why not leave a rating or review on whatever platform you listen to the Tech Blog Writer podcast. More reviews really help bring more listeners to the show, which makes it easier to get even better guests to share tech stories that offer value rather than hype.
So I hope you've enjoyed this week's guests. If there are any areas you would like me to explore or guests you would like to hear from, or if you'd like to come on yourself, as always, let me know. So a big thank you for everyone listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.